the African people, they could fly. And when they would soar up in the sky, they would sing this sweet song, like a lullaby. Kakua, kakua, ooh-wah-wah, ooh-wah-wah. And when they were captured and put on the ships, they forgot about their wings. Many of them forgot about their stories, their songs, their joy. They locked it all up inside them way down in a secret place called the soul. And when they got to this land, they were made to be slaves. There was an oppressor who was called a slave master, and they had a driver who would crack a whip against their skin to make sure that they worked and made money for the people who owned the land. Now, on one plantation, there was one young woman named Lucretia who discovered the secrets of Africa and herself. See, Lucretia's story is she was just 5 years old when she was sold away from her mother to new people on new land to pick cotton on new fields. She was just 5 years old. And she was worked hard, and she was abused, and she always missed her mama. And in search for something that felt like a mother's love, she took to the elders, you know. She would work up under them every time she could, and she would listen to their stories, their words, and their wisdom. And she kept it all inside her. And that gave Lucretia a certain strength about her as she grew into a young woman. And the oppressor hated that strength. And he abused her for it. And in time, her belly swelled with circumstances. Lucretia was going to have a baby of her own. And as that baby grew inside her, she envisioned a better life for the child than the one she had lived. She thought about the elders' words and hoped that maybe they would one day manifest true. Or maybe this child would have access to things she never had, and that she would have just a taste of humanity. And that baby grew until she gave birth to her, and she called her Lulu. And little Lulu, from the time she could walk, was picking cotton along her mother's side, just right by her mother's side, and she was content as could be. You know how it is sometimes when you're born into a situation, you become content with that. Well, that was little Lulu. And then when she turned about 3, the oppressor decided it was time for her to be sold to new people on new land to pick cotton on new fields. But Lucretia had envisioned a life much different than the one of her own. It was one thing to be a slave and to be worked hard and to be abused over and over again, but to do it without your mama to help you through. She just couldn't see it. She couldn't bear it. And as the oppressor tried to take the child away from Lucretia, she held on to that child tight. But this oppressor was used to having his way. He got his whip and began to lash her. Arms, legs, shoulders, back. The other slaves felt sorry, but they were also afraid. Lucretia would not let go of that child. She protected that child. And as the oppressor continued to whip her, and whip her, and whip her, some things began to vibrate in her soul. See, she had remembered the elders'